there are the basics that you can do, and then beyond that, it's a matter of testing for your particular audience, whether asking questions will work versus just making statements, whether sticking to 50 characters with spaces as like the maximum length, which most people tend to say is, of course, as long as your headline or your subject line should be. But you could experiment with that and see, does shorter work better for my audience? Does longer work better for my audience? Including things like your brand name. That's also something that's considered a best practice, at least when you're starting out or you have a new list. And it also, of course, depends on what's in your from line too. But and then, using action words and being really clear with what's inside. You can do things to manufacture opens, like being kind of tricky and saying and like hinting at what's inside. And then people open it, but they don't care about that thing because you were just trying to sort of trick them into opening it. And so your opens may be high, but your clicks are probably lower, and you may see more unsubscribes by doing something tricky, like, again, teasing them with something to get that open when it's not a really meaningful open.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to actually measuring, the correct behavior. Is it opens that are more important, or is it click-throughs that are more important? But on this
Yeah, that's true, right?
on this note, I did just want to add in, similar to what you had mentioned earlier about buttons on a page or calls to action. So, sign up, submit versus get.
Mm-hmm.
We A/B test quite a bit with our emails through Mailchimp, and it's a similar thing. I find people tend to respond much better when when it's less work for them.
Yeah. Yeah. In the email subject lines, you mean, like making it
Yes.
sound like this is going to be work-free?
Right, right. Even
Yeah.
let's say with the I'm trying to think of an example right now, but I can't think of one offhand. But we'll
Well,
move to
I
the
know,
next
like,
question, and I'll think about it.
okay, okay. And this is an interesting one. How do I seduce customers into opening my emails? We were sort of talking about that with the subject line. Seducing people tends to feel
Yeah.
like, sorry?
Oh no, just agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how I feel about the idea of seducing people to open your emails. Open rates don't matter unless people are going to read and click through to what you have next, and unless you have emails that are sent without any link to click, which is an interesting strategy. I'm not sure why a person might do that unless there's some sort of newsletter course or something like that going on. I can't imagine a place. My point is, I just can't imagine a time when opening your emails is going to be so important that you would want to, quote unquote, seduce customers. To me, it feels a little like there's a bag of tricks that you could probably pull from to do that. But is that really your goal? I'd ask you to step back and ask what your goal is. And if you're saying, well, I need people to open my email in order for them to read it, I get it. But being really clear with what's inside can be a great way to get people to open and read it, because they actually are showing that they're probably likely to want what's inside. So you might only get a 20% open rate by being clear with what's inside, but you could get a lot more click-throughs because the people who opened were qualified to open it. They opened it because they wanted what was inside, versus seducing people, like saying the secret trick to converting more visitors, right? If I use that as a subject line, I could get a lot of people to open if they care about secret tricks, and that's kind of a tactic there to seduce people. But I better make sure then that my email absolutely follows through on that, doesn't make them feel weird about it, because then I start to come off as maybe a bit spammy and trying to seduce people that way. Brian, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think this goes back to exactly what we were chatting about earlier, which was kind of the used car sales approach versus a concierge approach, where it's
Yeah,
kind of giving people something they might not necessarily want, or tricking people into opening an email that they might not necessarily
mm-hmm.
want, versus them actually
Yeah,
like feeling and understanding value in what you have, and
yeah.
being self qualified and self motivated to open it.